Bezos and how he actually started to get to such an incredibly great company. This went fucking great. I think this was actually the first time where it went quite as I wanted to be. I'm sorry. Yeah, fucking happy so that it turned out that good. Yeah, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I guess we're going ahead with the Everything Store summary, which is great, I guess, because I think, ended up in a section of the whole summary, which is practically pretty fucking great, because I do think you can get a lot out of it, and I can get a lot out of it as well, which is a win-win situation, and which is incredibly great. Let's do it like this. Yeah, I think it's great like this. But yeah, I do think, maybe we'll even actually, no, I guess not. It is a pretty long summary, so I do think maybe we will just, go ahead a little bit, or just, we'll come to an end, I think, in the next episode. It always depends on how fast I am in this episode and how much time I practically take myself. But I think we're gonna start just with his frugality. I just unfortunately have to for the podcast listeners, I just had to close my door. Do I have bad teeth? Because I ate just something. I don't know. Never mind. Light is okay, I guess. So yeah, where is his frugality? Or frugality, whatever it is fucking called. Well, it is really a really detailed summary, and a pretty long one therefore, which is good on one hand, and on the other hand it's quite a little bit bad as well, because it takes a lot of time to actually go through one of these. And I do not know if people are actually somehow mad at just actually going through the same thing over and over again, quite some sorta, even though I do have to say that there is just a lot of great information in there, which is great. For me, and for you, I guess. But yeah, frugality. Frugality breeds resourcefulness, self-sufficiency, and invention. There are no extra points for head count, budget size, or fixed expense. Amazon's first office was the garage of Bezos' Seattle house, with desks made out of $60 doors from Home Depot. The door desks are still a common office fixture. Bezos made employees pay for parking and required all executives to fly coach. When flying on a private plane, he made a point of saying, "The company isn't paying for this, I am." His lieutenants carried this forward. Brett Stone had dinner with a senior executive who picked up the bill and tore up the receipt saying, "The company is not paying for this." At the early office building's coffee stand, Bezos made a show of getting his loyalty card punched and handing his free drink to a colleague. When a new hire joins the company, she gets a backpack with a power adapter and a laptop dock. When she resigns, she asks to hand in all the equipment, including the backpack. Bezos drove a Honda Accord in the 2000s and continues to drive a Honda minivan. Even today, he is often dropped off by his wife, who also delivers their 4 children to school. And I do understand this. And the problem there is, I guess, that a lot of people who think that just being rich means showing off. But it definitely isn't. And something you can totally see with quite all the millionaires outside there. Not all of them, there's just, some people like, Johnny Depp, who just pay $35,000 a month for fucking wine, is completely another story. But I guess a lot of those very rich people just have a very just modest or a modest life. Do you say it like this? Never mind. So they just very live humbly. So they do not have big cars. they maybe have a big house. So Bezos, he has totally a big house. But I mean, like, he's worth over $100 billion. I don't know if he is then able to just buy himself a 100 million. I do not actually know if it's that expensive. I guess not actually. But why shouldn't he pay himself or buy himself a great house and a great real estate, especially for actually just somehow having his money invested into something that's not kind of dying, quote unquote, through inflation or whatsoever. So I do think that a lot of rich people actually do not, use their money to such a big degree. If you just take Bill Gates, who is, I think, the second person on Earth with a net worth of 100 billion right now, I guess. And yeah, he may drive a Porsche, but yeah, and he has a house totally, but he's just wearing just very, very just inexpensive clothing. And I don't know, his life in general, I think, isn't that expensive, besides the whole traveling and maybe some business flights or some private jet flights. But I guess, most of the really rich people do not actually just show off. They especially do not show off, but they also do not have such an expensive life in general. So at least this is what I see, and this is what I feel like, and this is what I maybe seem to see or seem to, I don't know, recognize in the world or of the world or whatsoever. Relentless worth ethic. Bezos expects employees to work tirelessly to build a lasting company and increase the value of their ownership stakes. You can work long, hard, or smart, but at Amazon you can't choose 2 out of 3. Well, at D.E. Shaw, Bezos kept a sleep bag in his office, as much as a prop as it was actually useful. Bezos refused to subsidize bus passes. Is it actually working? Yeah, should be okay. Bezos refused to subsidize bus passes, not wanting employees to leave work to catch the bus. He would rather them have cars. He would rather them have cars there, so there was no pressure to go home. I understand that. Even though I do have to say, I do think, in the meantime, he had a few problems with actually just taking care of his employees the right way. I think whether it was about the actually how he cares about them or how he treats them, or actually just paying them enough money. I don't know. I guess it was actually about the money. So therefore, he actually just rose the minimum wage of all the employees, I guess, to somehow $10 or something, which isn't a lot. Even though I do have to say, the problem is, if you're earning $10 an hour, I think it's quite something. You just have to think about it as, why is he so loud? Why is he so fucking loud? I don't know. I hope you can't hear this. Just going a little bit, far away, so that it doesn't pick up all these noises. But at an all hands meeting, the reason we are here is to get stuff done. That is the top priority. This is the DNA of Amazon. If you can't excel and put everything into it, this might not be the place for you. If you're not good, Jeff will chew you up and spit you out. And if you're good, he will jump on your back and ride you into the ground. Which seems to be a fucking quote of an employee. So if you're not good, Jeff will chew you up and spit you out. And if you're good, he will jump on your back and ride you into the ground. I don't know. I don't really hope that this is actually the truth somehow. I do really hope that he's taking care of his employees, that he's just really taking care of them. Because without his employees, even though some of them may be just forced to actually work at Amazon because there might not be another option for them, I do really hope that they just get treated well and that they just also get paid accordingly to their work they're doing. Negative reports of fulfillment center conditions have been reported. Security monitors workers to discourage stealing. Employees have 6 strikes, like calling in sick and arriving late, to be let go. Amazon made clear unionizing was not tolerated. Insufficient cooling caused some workers to be hospitalized. Well, but I don't know, 6 strikes, like, if you're sick and arriving late, actually getting a strike for that. I don't know, is this actually meant, like, if you do just are getting sick or ill or whatsoever, and you're calling them, that you actually get a strike for actually being sick? I don't know. I guess I've heard once that he actually has a lot of, authority just basis in his company and how he's working with his employees and whatsoever. But I didn't actually know that it was so quote unquote bad, I don't know. So the problem there is Steve Jobs wasn't actually also, as I know, or as I've just somehow heard it from other people saying, he was actually also not just, treating his employees that great. He was just a really, really authoritative just CEO, and he just wanted his employees to work as hard, maybe even harder than he is. And that's the problem, because you can't make an employee, unless you give them some equity in your company, just act like, it's their company, and they won't love your business and your company as much as you are loving it. Because it, definitely is yours and not them or theirs. So therefore, I don't know, it's quite difficult to say, okay, just work as hard as I am, if it's your business. And the ability to dive deep. Leaders operate at all levels, stay connected to the details, audit frequently, and are skeptical when metrics and anecdote differ. No task is beneath them. Bezos reportedly has the ability to comment insightfully on topics he has no prior training in. In a discussion about algorithms to optimize picker movements, a 5-engineer team presented their work over 9 months. Bezos read the paper, said, "You're all wrong," and started writing on the whiteboard. Said an engineer, everything he put down was correct and true. So everything he put down was correct and true. Like, what the engineer did or what Bezos did. So Bezos reportedly has the ability to comment insightfully on topics he has no prior training in. So which basically for me means that he's actually knowledgeable in a area or on a topic that he's actually not quite educated in, just actually. So in a discussion about algorithms to optimize picker movements, a 5-engineer team presented their work over 9 months, which is totally insane, isn't it? And Bezos read the paper, said, "You're all wrong," and started writing on the whiteboard. Said an engineer, everything he put down was correct and true. So I think this is just a validation of the point above, that he actually, has a lot of knowledge, even though it might be a topic he practically doesn't have any education in, or shouldn't have. He dove into this distribution problem, dealing with batch sizes and packaging, impressing a consulting professor and willing to be there with his sleeves rolled up, climbing around the conveyors with all of us. When hiring UD Menber, an algorithm expert, Bezos asked him to describe a new algorithm he invented. Menber, he not only fully understood it, but it did faster than most people. I did not expect that from a CEO. It would have taken me a month to explain it to most senior Yahoo people. Amazing. And so you somehow can totally see, okay, there must be some kind of a talent there, which is something that I quite heard a lot about, especially from Gary Vee and from his side, that actually talent is something that is important for actually having a business or actually being successful in a certain way. And I do think, and it's, for me, it seems like so, at least, what I'm reading there, that Bezos totally has, some sort of a talent, if it's in terms of communicating or if it is in terms of quite understanding topics or understanding a lot of things. I don't know, but he has a talent. I don't know which one, but he has one. So one of Steve Jack's famous posts about Amazon describes him as so goddamn smart that you have to turn it into a game for him or he'll be bored and annoyed with you. Well, for years he had armies of people taking care of everything for him. He has had a general's view of the industry battlefield for 10 years. Not only do you have more time than anyone else and access to more information than anyone else, you also have this long-term eagle-eye perspective that only a handful of people in the world enjoy, so he is really, really good at reading presentations. Wow. Jaggy, I do hope he's just really pronounced Jaggy, proposes deleting every third paragraph in your narrative so that Bezos has to fill in the blanks and avoiding being bored. I don't know, I can't think. Well, I can think of that it is actually true, but maybe I don't want it to be true somehow. But I don't know. The virtues, whatever it is called, is VIRTUOUS cycles. Early on, they believed that the larger the company got, the lower the prices it could exact from book distributors, and the more distribution capacity it could afford. Well, for me, it would be something like common sense. It would make sense for me, but I do think there will be a twist in the whole story so that it's kind of didn't turn out that way. In the first shareholder letter, which is, quote unquote, is always quite difficult to read through the lines because sometimes it is actually like just a little small sentence and then double point. I do not think it is called like this, and then some sort of a direct speech, I guess. I don't know. So market leadership can translate directly to higher revenue, higher profitability, greater capital velocity, and correspondingly stronger returns on investment capital. I'm sorry. Just have eaten something beforehand, which is always somehow kind of dangerous for me because I do have seem to be a lot of air in my fucking tummy. I don't know how this is called. So late in 2001, meeting with Jim Collins, they come up with a renewed virtuous cycle. Lower prices leads to more customer visits, leading to more sales, which leads to better returns on fixed costs, which allows further lowering of prices, and more third-party sellers, which increases selection and thus increases more customers. I do think, because we initially got through the whole timeline of Amazon and Bezos himself, and there we've quite seen that often actually Amazon didn't make any profit, but rather just got really, really deeply into debt. I do think that they actually just sell things quite cheaper than they actually buy them. So somehow they actually, I think at least, they're generating a lot of debt. Somehow, I do not know if they're still doing this, but I kind of feel like they did it. And I think through this method, they actually were able to get more customers because their prices were so low, just really sell more things, and therefore actually being able to reduce or lower all the prices they had, or from the distributors, or just the people they buy the stuff from. The second point, or next point, is the broad selection. The early advantage of Amazon was its huge catalog of obscure titles that no physical bookstore could possibly stock. Bezos wanted to build confidence in customers that Amazon could stock anything they wanted, making Amazon the first place they would look. In 1999, Bezos had aggressive ideas like the Alexandria Project, get 2 copies of every book ever printed, and Project Fargo, get 1 of every product ever manufactured and store it in a distribution center. Of every product ever manufactured. It is pretty hard. Or difficult, I guess, because, I don't know, I do think that he mentions products that, were officially then also sold, not like any China products that are only on the black market, but just real items and real goods that, people were able to buy somewhere, but, if they have looked them up on Amazon beforehand, they would just also get them. But when Amazon expanded the toys in 1999, Bezos insisted on stock every possible toy and spending 120 million. And yeah, they ended the year with a huge toy surplus. Yeah, something you could have just thought of, I guess. Well, it depends on, I don't know how sales were in 1999. I guess they were quite okay, for, I think, one of the first ever e-commerce bookstores, I guess. But yeah, speed. Speed is definitely something that I heard actually Amazon and or Jeff Bezos talking a lot about, because it is actually his thought that, which I kind of adopted, to be honest, that you actually should just be faster and less accurate for getting a better result. I do think a lot of people are always talking about quality and that the quality should be just perfect and whatsoever. I do not think that. I do think that in nowadays generation, nowadays times, or just nowadays, actually speed matters a lot, and speed matters even more than actually being 100% accurate, which is totally what Bezos also says. He says, okay, it is totally fine if you're 80% accurate but 100% fast, rather than vice versa. And I do believe in this because everything is so fast, and even if you are just wrong, and if these 80% of accuracy weren't as good or as good enough, you could totally fix it afterwards. And this is also something that he said, that it isn't too expensive now, or actually making the decision to do something fast than accurate, if the product or the whole just, how should I say, so that you actually could just turn this around in a good way with just a really low amount of expenses. And this is, I think, very, very practical in nowadays life, that people are actually doing it very fast, because actually just, even though it might just fail or whatsoever, just kind of removing the fail or kind of just reversing the fail into a win again isn't as expensive as it was. Therefore, it's totally okay. I do hope that you understood what I actually wanted to say. So it's not expensive to actually just make a win out of a failure. Yeah. So when developing the Kindle e-reader, Kessels asks Bezos what its deadline is. And Bezos said, you're basically already late. Well, yeah, I kind of feel like Bezos is actually pretty tough to his employees. And, it would be nice to hear that from, actually an employee of Amazon. But yeah. So disagree and commit. Bezos abhors social cohesion and consensus. Is it consensus? I think it's consensus. Preferring to have ideas banged against each other violently to arrive at the truth. Well, the truth is always good. Leaders are obligated to be respectfully challenge discussions or decisions when they disagree, even when doing so is uncomfortable or exhausting. But once a decision is determined, they commit wholly. So leaders are obligated to respectfully challenge decisions when they disagree. Oh, I see that. Is obligated what I mean? So they quite have to? Yeah, I think that's good. And I think that just really explains the point above. And it makes sense for me, because it truly makes sense that you actually just, if somebody in your company that you have somehow hired, because you believe in these people, whether they are smart or whether they are good at what they're doing, do not care now. I think it's then good to actually tell them, okay, please say something, or please just really challenge this decision if you do not agree. Because every single discussion, I guess, and the more people who are discussing, I think the truth for the result then is some sort of. And I somehow think that it's always nice to have a lot of opinions, especially in such a big company, even though I do kind of feel like, at the end, Bezos is the person who's making the decision. But I don't know. It's often like, when I'm making a design and I'm thinking like, yeah, This is totally something every single person will get if they're just, having a glance on it. But, then I tell it to the other design students in my class, and then they tell me like, okay, I totally see it, I totally know what you mean. And then the problem is when you're just, giving your design to someone else, or just having a look, or let someone have a look on your design that has nothing to do with design. Often they will just ask themselves like, or ask you, okay, it is nice and it looks beautiful or something, but I don't get the idea behind it. And even if you explain it, they do not get it. It's somehow very, very interesting, I guess. Learning from partners, then beating them. Well, Amazon Marketplace launched to some concerns about competing with third-party sellers who might undercut Amazon. However, Bezos understood that if someone else knew how to sell more cheaply than Amazon, Amazon should let them and figure out how they did it. They did this for jewelry, which was a more complicated category than expected. Amazon uses pricing pods that crawl competitors' prices and adjust Amazon's prices accordingly. Makes sense. Amazon now manufactures its own branded goods like batteries and USB cables, no doubt fueled by its immense data set on the best-selling, most profitable goods. Totally, they have a lot of fucking data. They have, because, I think they're the number one seller on the internet. A lot of people are just, all the people are buying on Amazon. And I do think this is just very, very interesting. Something that I quite, thought about quite often is that, you no matter who you are, you eventually will have an Android phone or an iPhone. No matter who you are, whether you're Jeff Bezos, whether you're Elon Musk, whatever, they just will have either an iPhone or just another phone. So they also depend on these products. The same thing as maybe a lot of employees of Apple, or maybe even Tim Cook himself, is buying stuff on Amazon, which is totally, I think, crazy. If you're just viewing it as like they themselves are such a big company, but they still have to use other products, and they totally have to use some PCs or some Macs or whatever, which is, at my point of view, is just very, very interesting. I do not know if you do share the same interest as I am, but I guess it is, it's somehow funny even, I guess. The long-term focus, which is totally something important, actually going for long-term rather than short-term, I guess is actually key, and the whole patience around it and whatsoever. Ignoring stock prices. You don't feel 30% smarter when the stock goes up by 30%. So when it goes down, you shouldn't feel 30% dumber. Actually a quote by Bezos himself, I guess. The compensation packages spread the signing bonus over 2 years. Grant RSUs, or 4 years, but 5% at the end of the first year, 50% the second year, and 20% every 6 months after the final 2 years. Further grants vest over 2 years and are also backloaded. I completely don't know what they were talking about quite there in the paragraph, but I guess some people will, and some people will just, somehow get some value out of it. Blue Origin's motto, what the fuck, gradatim is GRADATIM, Verosita. Seems to be another language. Gradatim Verosita, or Gradatim Verosita. Never mind. Step by step, ferociously, so ferociously, like FERO, then Shisley, I guess, with CIOUSLY. The coat of arms has torches. Is it torches? I guess so. Torches, invoking the story of the torches and hair. Like, not hair like my hair, but HARE. Or is it har? Hair? Har? I don't fucking know. Well, but yeah, I guess this is actually the end of this episode. I do hope that you enjoyed it and got something out of it, especially that you got something out of it. And I hope you the best health, wealth, happiness, and success. And yeah, I still hope that you're just gonna remember how you are gonna be remembered. So, basically your legacy, and actually giving back to the people, whether they have given you something or not. Doesn't quite matter. Just giving something back to the people, to the world, like a smile, or like being friendly to all the people you're just engaging with, or there's just a lot of easy things to actually help people around you, or just make the days better of the people around you. Yeah, just by doing very, very easy, simple, and just, small things, I guess. But yeah, I hope you're gonna watch the other episode as well, and I'll see you the next time.